today's Canucks commentary for Monday, June the 13th. It's game day, Game 6, Vancouver versus Boston, in Boston, Stanley Cup Finals, with the Canucks up 3-2. Could this be the day that the Vancouver Canucks win their first Stanley Cup in their 40-year history? On Friday night at Rogers Arena, the Vancouver Canucks stepped up with a huge 1-0 victory, thanks in large part to Max Lapierre's third-period goal and to some stellar goaltending by Roberto Luongo. Speaking of stepping up, the fans in Rogers Arena stepped up. They were loud and proud for the entire game. It was an amazing environment, before the game, during the game, and after the game. Between the whistles and before and after them as well, the crowd at Rogers Arena truly gave the Vancouver Canucks home ice advantage. Back to Roberto Luongo. It's going to be really interesting to see how he plays in Game 6, given his struggles in Games 3 and Game 4. Also, with the little verbal barbs he's been having with the Boston Bruins since Game 5, I'm really interested to see what happens in Game 6. As for his counterpart, Tim Thomas, has he played well enough to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, even if the Vancouver Canucks win the Stanley Cup in Game 6? The Conn Smythe Trophy goes to the most valuable player throughout the NHL playoffs. Now naturally there's a weighting or a bias towards the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's why Tim Thomas may have an upper hand because of his stellar play throughout the entire series. Roberto Luongo has played quite well throughout the entire playoffs, save a couple bad games against Chicago and of course the 2 bad games in Boston. But if he has a strong Game 6, will that be enough to propel him to the Conn Smythe Trophy? Or if it's not Thomas or Luongo, perhaps it will go to someone like Henrik or Daniel Sedins, Ryan Kesler, or Kevin Bieksa. All of these guys have done enough to merit Conn Smythe consideration. And without getting too far ahead of myself here, if the Vancouver Canucks do win the Stanley Cup tonight in Boston, I hope that their post-game celebration is a lot more exciting and dramatic than that of the Dallas Mavericks, who beat the Miami Heat in Game 6 in Miami. It was one of the strangest and most subdued celebrations I've ever seen. In fact, MVP Dirk Nowitzki actually left the court with seconds still left on the clock. Granted, he was probably still sick as a dog from the fever he got a few days earlier, but wouldn't you want to be around your teammates for that amazing and historic moment? In fact, it was their first championship in franchise history. Sound familiar? I just can't picture Luongo or the Sedins or Kesler or Burles skating off the ice and going to the change room with time still left on the clock. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't care how the Canucks celebrate if it means them winning the Stanley Cup. Because no matter what, it will be dramatic, it will be memorable, and it will be historic. A wonderful way to cap off a magical season. It's time to bring the cup home. God bless, and go Canucks Go.